Abedin Quader. Abedin Quader was born in Jajira, Shariatpur in 1955. He had his school education at Dhaka Collegiate School and did I.Sc from Dhaka College. He obtained B.A. Huns in English from Jahangir Nagar University and M.A. in English from Dhaka University. He participated in BCS Examinations in 1982 and joined in Bangladesh Civil Service, Information Cadre. He was in government service almost for 10 years and left for New York for education in 1993. He obtained an M.A. in Communications from Hunter College, CUNY and M.Phil and Ph.D. in Political Sociology from New School for Social Research, New York. He has been teaching sociology at Essex County College in New Jersey since 2001 and also teaching at CUNY, New York as an adjunct professor since 2005. He writes essays and also translates literary works from Bengali to English and English to Bengali. He translated poems, novels and short stories from Bengali into English. He has published 12 books in Bengali and English. He lives in New York. Pain of staying away. Bleeding of not being able to stay away. What does exile actually mean? Is it just going away from one's own house, or inability to ignore one's house always/sometimes? In which way does banishment occur in a man's life? How does it occur? What changes does exile bring in a man's life? Can anyone ever avoid expulsion? Is it possible to be banished even while staying in one's own house? Yes, it is possible. How much of this expulsion is physical, and how much of it is psychic? What difference is there between those who have made themselves immigrants, or those who have deposed themselves from their roots, or severed all ties with their roots, with those who have no roots? For every banished person, the pattern of banishment, their natures are different from each other, reasons also. As there are socio-political reasons behind it, so are psychological reasons. Besides this, the laments, the pain or the sighs of the banished common people, and those of a banished writer or politician, are totally different. Some look for their roots in the darkness, and some seek for it in their memory. All banished people are inflicted with hurt. To them, the pain of not being able to distance themselves is much more than staying far away. Though they are physically distant, yet in their thoughts and work, sleep and wakefulness, dreams and dreamlessness, and even in the rigidity of their tongue, they are besieged by the consciousness of their motherland. If that exiled person is a writer or an artist, then what kind of reaction is created in him by this uprooting or extermination or separation? Why is it different from the rest? Primarily, it can be said that all of them are estranged, distressed from being homeless or separated from their house. The continuous bleeding of memories, pain of losses, apprehensions, anger, frustration of not being able to create oneself as one wanted, worn out with self-inflicted pounding, pressure of being so deprived, and to top it all, the constant overwhelming shame of living as an immigrant in a different planet. But the pain of the writer is of a different kind. When he is about to lay scratches of ink on the paper, then he has to build a house on the threshold of land on the other half of the globe, perhaps has to wrap around it his roots, that has been left behind. He has to go back to his memories over and over again, has to re-establish the life saved in his memory, the strings of minuscule moments, over the routine of daily life. But at the same time, one has to discard the life left behind, just like a loan is discarded by repayment. Has to seek one's past life in the new life. There is trouble in that pursuit too. The pain of every exiled person is expressed in his daily quest for discovering himself. As a result, he has to stay engrossed in his food, clothing, language, artistic pursuits, and in the new creation of his old love. Whenever he is a bit successful in his new creation, instantly he is beleaguered by a deeper anguish, one that gives rise to bafflement and an inherent distance. In this cycle of creation and loss, the old memories and untouched entity of the exiled person makes repeated comebacks. It's all about gain and loss, perhaps not absolute gain, and nothing lost completely. This circling sends him to a level of intoxication. Pain perhaps emanates from there. One can say not banished far away, rather, pain of not being able to detach oneself. The exiled person has only physically been thrown off from his roots, but he came far, far away only to cling on to his roots much harder. Basically, expelling his soul becomes impossible to him. An artist looks around for his painting, writing or tunes. He perhaps hears the same announcements everywhere to and that is the premature death proclamation of the creation of the exiled. His colors, his words or his sound waves all plunge down at different turns of history, where lie scattered his memories that he has left behind. Even if the rule that was prescribed in the Vienna Convention in 1815 regarding the fate of the expelled people could give them some security, but stopping the loss of blood of the artists with that was absolutely impossible. Milan Kundera, Chekhov Muse, Salman Rushdie, Andrei Osman and Edward Said, who passed away a few years back, all of them are expelled artists. Yet for each one of them, their pain, the bleeding inside are all different in nature. All of them were sown in a different land, their circumstances unknown, they were newcomer there. The life they live are not theirs, their life is superimposed by the lives of different people, chained to some extent. Of the thousands of hurdles the artists face in their state of banishment, the most important and basic question that they have to face is in which language they should write. If the banished artist is a painter, singer or a filmmaker, then the question of language to him is relatively less complicated. Although one might naturally think that the artist would write in the language he has left behind, but if there is an exception to it, it's not that it doesn't happen, then it is seen that in most of the cases they are equally adept at showing their expertise in the second foreign language. This has been seen in cases of Conrad, Saeed Osman, Eva Hoffman, Bharati Mukherjee, Charles Simic, Milan Kundera, and Samuel Beckett. The tonal voice of every exiled artist is different, their thoughts and the world they live in are different, the language that keeps their soul alive is different. However, there is one similarity in one aspect, and that is the natures of the chains that bind their souls are more or less similar. It is seen that most exiled writers from Europe, Africa, and Asia, who have taken asylum in diverse countries, the language there is often English. And in today's world, all the noteworthy writers who have practiced their art in a foreign language, they have chosen English as their language of writing. Of them, from Eva Hoffman to Bharati Mukherjee, nearly all have created a distance within themselves with this language, outside their own satisfaction and their own desires. The one can think that within the distance that they had created, was the exiled soul's ceaseless spinning. In spite of continuously spinning in a circle, when it comes to the topic of language, it fails to be one with the sound or the flow of the spin. After staying for a few decades in English-speaking countries like the United Kingdom, United States, Canada, New Zealand or Australia, though they try to stay away from the soil of that country, they cannot disassociate themselves from something whose fancy name is accent. It might appear that the nose and voice machines are betraying in this matter, and not only that, a huge hurdle is being imposed between the naturalization of the language and the banished soul. Hence, standing at the crossroads between the mind and life is a different language, one which is not his own, but can't throw it away either. To the exile, that is what is timeless, over time, very private and personal, and a different entity. As an artist experiences his childhood, inherited rituals and memories, in the same manner regarding originality also arises in him an exiled entity beyond time, an entity derived from the pain of staying away from his roots, and not being able to stay away at the same time. In his migrant life, some writers can find faults in their pronunciation and rigidity in the use of the language that they have adopted. Some describe this as the writer's dominance over the grace of the language. The language is not always absolutely correct. Again, he cannot possibly be identified with anything but this language. Abstinence from fault in pronunciation or the accent can be called banishment. The continuous struggle to gain expertise in the language of life, that struggle becomes a part of the writer's life, it never ends. But in another sense, it is much more than life's struggle. It is just a system of compromising with the adversities of a different world out of the realm of one's own soil, one's own world. A writer is never prepared for that world, or the compromise. He is bloodied and shattered between his past and present, unable to control himself. His entity as a writer is bruised. Within the writer, his own past and present become rivals and competitors. Faulty accent draws the line of demarcation between his two languages, with which the writer himself ascertains two different character of time. One is the time of his birth and growing up, and the other is his time of separation. Two different languages, two different cultures, and on the line of demarcation, the identity is evanescent on one and incipient on the other. The writer becomes a person with more than one entity, but he is not completely one with two entities. In today's literary world, especially in the United Kingdom and the United States, a few immigrant writers have taken control of the English language with such deftness and artistry. It can be said that the way in which their roots have been sown deep into this language, that it would come as a surprise to think that they are from the other hemisphere, or they have ever been, still are, of a different tongue. The language of their homes, their households have become English. They think, dream, sing, love and snatch your heart. And also bleed you in English. From their writings one gets to know that those who have children, they gift some with notes in their mother tongue as proof of history, but when the children and the immigrant parents discuss something emotional, like children's school, profession, sports and the world of art, then perhaps both take refuge of the acquired language English. Though their everyday work language is English, in their hearts their position is absolutely frail, temporary and faltering. It not the point whether drawing the matters of the heart, this language touches the peak of excellence. Maybe this is not the language to express sorrow, nor gossip, even as a goodbye kiss this language is not that apt. But when an immigrant writer tries to extract something from the heart, he takes refuge of this language. After writing every extraordinary sentence, the immigrant writer thinks that perhaps due to insecurity, he has been able to write for security. Perhaps as a result he rejoices, thinking that the reader must be thinking that he belongs to this language. Whoever doesn't know that it is only the foreigners who can attain excellence in the grammar of any language, in a much more perfect way than those whose mother tongue it is. And they do that to hide their own weakness, their bashfulness or embarrassment. Hence one can say that immigration has made them fragile, and also smart at the same time. They are clever and ever alert when they are delivering a complex sentence in that language, that the beauty of the language is not lost in the words used. If they use any light words then too, they see to it that the ease and fluency is lost, rather a kind of sternness persists, thus the lightness fades into unknown seriousness. Finally, at one point everyone forgets the matter of immigration, rather they prefer to do so. But the forgetting immigrant mind too cannot forget one thing, which becomes a part of the lives of nearly all migrants, and that is offering the memories to progenitors. Fraught in memory while reminiscing, these stoical people see themselves in duality, think in two parts, and finally end up in two human beings, two entities. In a foreign land when they see some place, then unknowingly they draw a picture of a different place behind it, or seek the existence of that picture. To them everyone and everything appears in a dual form, everything is mobile, circulating. And that is where one experiences life, especially a migrant life, not quarries of pain, just a deep spin, irresistible, ever-changing and to some extent a pit of deceit, just like love. In other words, one can say that migration can be the past circulating of thoughts, can instantly shoot out of one's own orbit, but in a different sense absolutely silent, still unmoving. Thinking of this motionlessness one can recall a few painful, obviously helpless faces. In the movie Casablanca, a few people who shot out of Europe in the unknown path of life, helpless, but determined, every day waits for the letter of travel to arrive. In reality they were not in Casablanca, they were never there, their existence was not where they were confined, but they had not gone anywhere. In all probability they were confined in a tireless, everlasting journey, bound with legs in shackles. The reason that the migrants see more than one time and place in one is not because they are driven by the intoxication of their memories, rather there might be a more practical and painful reason behind it, and that is they are in search of a house all their lives. That house is their house of the future, in them nests the deadly quest to make that his own house in the unknown environment that he is banished in. Even if he gets it somewhere, the urge to seek does not stop. This process of pursuit keeps him alive as a migrant, does not let his entity to subside. In him the reason for this quest to be living is strange, the house from where he has been ousted, the house whose picture is incandescent in his memory, he is unable to seek that out. The thing that is so visible among the things that he has within his capacity, he finds no resemblance of that house to his. Repeatedly, recurrently his problem starts from this house, and with this house is the pain and bleeding of his lifelong confused mind. It might be true that one cannot find a house in migrant's life, there is no house. It is not without doubt that it ever was. A sensitive migrant mind always questions how it was possible to reconstruct his house. What kind of adversities do they have to face in mastering the new identity, the new language? The answers can be diverse, of various kinds, not because their voice or the profile of their face and heart are different, but because they are made up of different kinds of psychological raw materials. In their writings, songs, paintings, they present different ingredients of life's pain and love. Finally, they are similar in one aspect, and that is all migrants seek their lost life, and then wants to recreate it. And with that intention tries to organize the words of his own, and that of the foreign land and foreign tongue, wants to express himself, and again the next moment hides himself and curls up. The words used are then no longer the bearers of his unspoken words, they become a simple dinghy in the deep billowing and roaring ocean of life, depending on which, the banished heart wants to stay afloat, wants to live a few more unknown moments. Translated from the original in Bengali by Purnaz Nag.